Spit till I suffocate, very quick to agitate. Concentrate till I rate, I'm irate. In a state, my confidence is a trait. Success is my motherfucking fate.
The big secret to breaking the rules is to make it look as though you're following them. So, what sort of plans do you have for the Earth?
Who knows? Why should I care? I'm just gonna destroy everything anyway.
Hey, messing stuff up sounds like a lot more fun than being a stupid hero. Yeah, forget being Rainbow Ranger.
Monster came out in 2004 and it's a story about a brain surgeon, one of the best in the country, Dr. Kenzo Tenma. The plot thickens when an injured child with a bullet in his head is brought into the hospital. At the same time, the mayor is also brought in, needing surgery. With limited medical expertise and time, Tenma is heavily pressured by the hospital director to perform surgery on the mayor for political and public relation purposes. In the heat of the moment, Dr. Tenma goes against the director's wishes and conducts the operation on the young boy because he came in first and he's younger. And he might have also potentially done this because he was emotionally charged by the director's comments about not all life being created equally. Dr. Tenma is an incredibly caring and empathetic person and went with his heart. As you could imagine, Tenma is not a fan of the corruption in the hospital, as saving lives was the reason for him becoming a doctor. After saving the child, with time, Dr. Tenma discovers that the boy Johann Lieber is responsible for a series of murders. With guilt in his heart and being framed for Johann's murders, Dr. Tenma, a fugitive, goes on to try and find Johann and kill him to atone for the mistake of saving him. Through and through, Monster is a tale of tragedy and unfortunate events illustrated by the arcs of each character, of whom feel like real people and the stories behind each of them compelling. It's commonplace in this world that if tragedy has not yet struck a character during the story, they probably had experienced it at one point in their lives. In some cases, the misfortune is not their own fault, like young Milos, who is abandoned by his prostitute mother, only to be talked into suicide by none other than Johann, stripping him of his innocence in the process. Though when the catastrophe is of the character's own doing, some seek to find peace through redemption for their sins of the past, such as Müller, a hitman responsible for a young woman's parents' deaths, eventually saving her life. Personal calamities are ever present in Monster, and many of them all linked to our antagonist and arguably one of the best villains in anime, Johann Lieber. Really and truly, Johann deserves his own character breakdown, but he is the mastermind to almost all the tragedies in Monster, when he is just as tragic as the misery he creates. One of the main reasons to watch the show is to slowly unravel the mysteries of this world, and a great component to it all is actually the character of Johann. Somehow he is known by all, yet can be located by none. Despite being a serial killer, he is highly intelligent, influential, and charismatic, and is scarily good at getting into your head and knowing how you are feeling and thinking. This makes the setup of our loving, empathetic doctor trying to catch such a person so gripping and compelling. What keeps us coming back for another episode is slowly watching the kind-hearted Dr. Tenma slowly losing himself in the darkness in the pursuit of killing Johann. Tenma, the doctor who saves lives and views all lives as precious, has the mental burden of being a walking contradiction. Even for the viewer, the cognitive dissonance that Tenma goes through is uncomfortable, as in his mind, he doesn't want to kill or harm anyone, but his goal is the opposite of that, being to kill the man he once saved as a child. To see such a pure soul be corrupted by darkness done so well is truly a testament to Naoki Urasada's skills as a writer, as she comments on the human condition. What happens when ordinary people are pushed to do things they would never normally do? However, since the vibe of Monster tends to be on the more bleak, depressing side, when we do see genuinely nice characters come along, we get quite attracted to them, as their warmth brings a light of hope, which serves as a friendly reminder that although things may seem bad, there is always some good to be found somewhere out there. One of my favourite characters being Wolfgang Grimmer, being one of the kinder, more optimistic characters in the show. He gullibly gives money to swindlers, and when he realises what happened, he just smiles and moves on. And he generally always helps strangers in need. Unfortunately though, like most of the characters in this series, his past is extremely tragic, and there is much more to him than meets the eye. He is a broken man in many ways, which I won't mention here, and I might save that for a future video. In fact, you could analyze each of these character stories in the show and learn something about human nature. One of the great pulls of this show from a viewer's perspective is the suspense. This show is fantastic at gripping your attention and is not afraid to kill characters off. This elicits a genuine feeling of dread when watching, and I would maybe even call the show a horror at times. It's an interesting setting too. It's based on Germany in 1986, and the vistas and soundtrack really make the world come to life. Cities like Dusseldorf and Munich are drawn beautifully, and this makes the show a joy to watch, even if the animation is a bit old by today's standards. This is 100% a seinen series and covers many dark themes like alcoholism, suicide, corruption, mental illness, and even child abuse. But all of these topics are covered in a natural way and are not glorified at all. Instead, we gain insight into why these things can happen and what the effects can be. Tenma's journey is not simply to kill Johan, but it is also a battle of two minds by outwitting one another and questioning your own mind, your own philosophy. Johan is a nihilist and extremely cunning and influential. He has a way with words and has made certain characters commit suicide with his words alone. Johan has a very Joker-like presence where he has had many opportunities to kill Tenma and he didn't, which messed with his head. As the atrocities that Johan commits pile up, so does the guilt on Tenma's shoulders, leading him to change as the series unfolds. For the full experience, watch the show with headphones on late at night. It provides a very isolated experience. Monster is a psychological thriller full of mystery and philosophical conflict. It's gripping, I love it, and you should watch it. I've been SirLantz, and have a great day.
My motherfucking fate is open season and I'm out for the kill. Adrenaline pumping through my veins, now I'm feeling the thrill. Call me Itachi, you won't see me. Tsukuyomi. Undeniable.